Right now, like literally as we speak, federal agents are pulling hundreds of unauthorized drones out of the restricted airspace above stadiums all across North
Yeah,
America.
it's a massive operation.
It is. And at the exact same time, a single prediction platform is holding $1.8 billion in bets on a tournament that hasn't even crowned a winner yet.
Just staggering amount of capital.
Right. So if you think the 2026 World Cup is being decided strictly on the grass, by 22 players just kicking a ball around, you are honestly watching the wrong game.
Absolutely.
So, welcome to today's deep dive. We are basically tearing down the facade of the world's biggest sporting event to look at the massive invisible infrastructure that actually dictates what happens on the pitch.
And we've got some incredible data to go through today.
Oh, we really do. We have a towering stack of sources driving our analysis today. We're looking at comprehensive on-the-ground reporting from the Daily Beirut, minute-by-minute live blog updates and match analyses from The Guardian, and this incredibly granular tactical breakdown from BBC Sport.
They did some really phenomenal work on the tactical side.
Yeah, they really did. So our mission for you today is to completely deconstruct how the modern World Cup has morphed. It's a collision of psychological warfare, billion-dollar shadow industries, state-sponsored investments, and, honestly, some completely bizarre cultural phenomena.
It really is a fundamental shift in how we have to consume international football.
Yeah.
I mean, to understand this specific 2026 tournament, which is structurally unprecedented, right?
Yeah, 48 teams.
Exactly. Spanning 48 teams across three massive host nations in the U.S., Canada, and Mexico, you just have to utilize a completely different analytical framework.
Right, the old ways don't work anymore.
No, they don't.
Yes.
We can no longer just evaluate, like, a team's defensive shape or a striker's finishing metrics. To really grasp the reality of this tournament, you have to look at the casino servers processing algorithmic wagers.
Wow, yeah.
You have to look at the atmospheric physics of high-altitude stadiums and the geopolitical messaging echoing from boardrooms right into the referee's ear.
So by the time we wrap up today, I promise you, the way you watch a seemingly innocent throw-in or a delayed goal kick is going to be completely transformed.
You really won't be able to unsee it.
No, you won't. You won't be able to unsee the mechanisms operating in the background. So let's just start with the most pervasive, invisible force of all, which is the shadow economy. Let's go back to those drones I mentioned.
The drone issue is fascinating.
It's wild. The FBI and the Department of Homeland Security recently announced they have seized over 600 drones in restricted airspace across the 11 U.S. host cities.
That is a huge number.
600! That isn't, a couple of tourists trying to get a cool shot for Instagram. That is a swarm.
Right. It highlights a massive escalation in the threat matrix surrounding global sporting events.
Yeah.
When you see a number like 600, you're looking at systemic activity.
Meaning it's coordinated.
Exactly. While a fraction might be clueless hobbyists, the broader context of sports data collection suggests something much, much more sophisticated.
Like what? What are they actually doing?
Well, some of these drones are likely being utilized for illicit data scraping.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
In the world of high-stakes gambling, getting real-time visual information even half a second before the official television broadcast feed reaches the global market is, well, it's an invaluable commodity.
Because of the delay.
Right, the broadcast delay.
Yeah.
And that directly ties into the sheer scale of the financial ecosystem surrounding this tournament.
Okay, let's talk about that scale, because the numbers in the Daily Beirut report are almost difficult to even process.
They really are.
They estimate the total scale of sports betting surrounding this specific tournament at $7.3 billion.
Just an astronomical figure.
Let's just pause on that for a second. That is the GDP of a small sovereign nation entirely riding on a 4-week football tournament.
Yeah, it's hard to wrap your head around.
And they break this down into $3.1 billion in legal online wagers and another $2.37 billion moving through prediction platforms. And as I mentioned earlier, one specific platform holds $1.8 billion in bets just on the outright tournament winner.
It is a staggering amount of liquidity. To contextualize this, global regulated sports betting was valued at around $570 billion in 2024.
Wow.
And football accounts for roughly 56% of that pie. But we have to make a crucial distinction here regarding the architecture of this money.
Okay, what's the distinction?
The 7.3 billion figure tracked by Daily Beirut is overwhelmingly representing the visible, regulated, or semi-regulated markets. It represents the money we can actually see.
Right, the above board stuff.
Exactly. The global illegal betting market operates on an entirely different scale. It's historically estimated to handle between 340 billion and 1.7 trillion dollars annually.
Trillion with a T.
With a T. This is the shadow game. This is where the dark liquidity pools exist.
Okay, but mechanically, how does a syndicate even move that much money without tripping every anti-money laundering alarm in the global banking system? Like, I hear multi-million-dollar payout, but I don't understand how that money actually clears.
They utilize highly fragmented, completely decentralized networks. Syndicates don't just, walk into a casino in Las Vegas and drop $10 million on the counter.
Right, they'd be flagged immediately.
Exactly. They use networks of agents across unregulated markets. Often these are in parts of Asia or Eastern Europe. And these agents place thousands of smaller wagers across hundreds of different offshore platforms simultaneously.
Oh, so it's death by 1,000 cuts.
Precisely. And they utilize cryptocurrency to mask the origins of the funds, and they exploit platforms that don't enforce Know Your Customer or KYC regulations.
Risky.
Very. So by the time a match kicks off, a massive financial position has been assembled invisibly, just dispersed across a global digital archipelago.
And what they are betting on has fundamentally mutated, too. The sources make it very clear that this isn't just about picking, say, France to beat Paraguay.
No, the outright winners are almost secondary to them now.
Right. We are deep into the era of spot betting or micro betting. Bettors are wagering on incredibly granular, microscopic events within the match.
The micro events are where the real vulnerability lies.
Yeah, like the exact minute of a yellow card. Or the total number of corner kicks in a specific quadrant of the pitch. Or whether a defender commits a foul between the 15th and 20th minute.
This is where the analogy of high-frequency algorithmic stock trading becomes highly relevant.
How so?
Well, just as hedge funds use algorithms to exploit micro-fluctuations in stock prices within fractions of a second, betting syndicates use algorithmic models to price and exploit micro-events on the pitch.
Wow. Okay.
And this is a catastrophic nightmare for regulatory bodies like FIFA. Think about the traditional mechanics of match fixing.
Okay.
If you want to rig the final score of a World Cup match, you are attempting an incredibly complex conspiracy.
Right. You'd need a lot of people on board.
Exactly. You have to bribe the goalkeeper, maybe the center backs, maybe the manager. It requires multiple points of failure. It's highly visible, and if one player blows the whistle, the whole operation collapses.
But with spot betting, you don't need a conspiracy. You just need one guy to have a momentary lapse in judgment.
Precisely. You isolate a single variable. You approach one player, perhaps, a veteran nearing retirement who wants a final payday, or maybe a player from a federation notorious for not pitching its squad their bonuses.
Which happens a lot, sadly.
It really does. So you offer them an exorbitant, life-changing sum of money to do one simple thing. Just kick the ball out of bounds for a throw-in during the 14th minute.
It's it, just a throw-in.
That's it. The psychological barrier to entry for the player is incredibly low. They can rationalize it. They tell themselves, I am not throwing the match. I am not betraying my country. I'm just giving away a meaningless throw-in near the halfway line.
Wow. Yeah, I can see how they justify that.
Right. Yet that single innocuous action triggers a pre-planned cascade of winning bets across those offshore platforms, which results in a massive payout for the syndicate.
It's terrifying because it basically hides in plain sight. And the Daily Beirut provides extensive historical context to prove that this isn't just theoretical paranoia, It's an established business model.
It is a long documented history.
Yeah, they point back to the 2004 German Cup scandal with referee Robert Heuser.
That is a foundational case study in how cheaply the integrity of a sport can be purchased.
Tell us about that one.
So Heuser was officiating a first-round match between a lower division club, Paderborn, and Bundesliga heavyweights, Hamburg. Hamburg was dominating, up 2-0 early in the match.
Okay, pretty standard.
Right. Then Heuser actively intervened. He fabricated a highly controversial penalty and issued a completely baseless red card to a Hamburg striker. It completely altered the geometry and the momentum of the match.
And let me guess, Paderborn won.
Paderborn ended up winning 4-2.
Man! And the syndicate behind this manipulation walked away with a fraud totaling roughly $2.16 million.
A massive return on investment.
But the detail that always stops me in my tracks is what Heuser actually got paid to orchestrate this. I mean, he risked federal prison his entire career and the integrity of German football, all for about $72,000 in a luxury television.
It's wild, but it reveals the asymmetrical economics of match fixing.
It really does.
The payout for the orchestrators is astronomical, but the cost of the bribe is essentially a rounding error.
Right.
And the sources trace this evolution forward to the 2013 Europol investigations into a Singapore-based syndicate. That single network was implicated in manipulating an estimated 680 matches globally.
680 matches. That is an industrial scale.
It really is. We are talking World Cup qualifiers, Champions League fixtures, top-flight matches across Europe, Africa, and the Americas. The standardized bribe rate was reportedly around 100,000 euros.
So about $108,000 per match.
So, exactly. Then you factor in the Italian scandals of 2011 and 2012 involving 52 players, and the 2025 detentions in Turkey that swept up 46 individuals, including club presidents. The infrastructure of manipulation is robust, and it is deeply entrenched.
Wait, let me challenge this directly, though. I hear the history and I understand the economics of 2004 or 2013, but this is the 2026 World Cup in North America.
Sure.
They have federal agencies clearing the airspace. They have an impenetrable ring of steel security apparatus around the team hotels. Most importantly, we have VAR, the video assistant referee technology.
VAR is certainly a factor.
Right. There are dozens of high-definition, high-speed cameras tracking the spatial coordinates of every single player, every blade of grass, from 40 different angles in real time.
Correct.
So if a player intentionally shanks a pass to secure a spot bet, how on earth do they get away with it under that level of forensic surveillance?
Because you are conflating the surveillance of action with the surveillance of intent.
Oh, interesting. Unpack that for me.
VAR is a remarkable technological achievement for adjudicating objective physical reality. Did the ball cross the goal line by a millimeter? VAR can tell you. Was the striker's shoulder offside relative to the last defender? Did the cleats make contact with the ankle in the penalty box?
Right. It answers all of that definitively.
Exactly. What VAR cannot do, and what, frankly, no camera will ever be able to do, is look inside the cognitive process of a human being running at 32 kilometers an hour.
So if a defender miskicks a ball out for a corner, VAR just confirms it's a corner.
Exactly. If a player goes into a tackle a fraction of a second late and receives a yellow card in a specific 5-minute window, VAR simply confirms that a foul occurred and a yellow card was issued.
Yeah, that makes sense.
How do you definitively prove, to a standard recorded by a court of law or a strict sporting tribunal that a slight biomechanical miscalculation by an exhausted athlete was actually a premeditated malicious action designed to satisfy an offshore algorithmic wager?
You can't. You really can't. The margin between an authentic athletic mistake and a criminal micro-event is zero. They look completely identical.
That is the existential vulnerability of the sport. The sheer volume of unregulated money creates an overwhelming gravitational pull.
Yeah.
I mean, FIFA prohibits anyone involved in professional football from engaging in betting, but when the financial incentives eclipse the players' salaries by a factor of 10, you really have to question if regulatory oversight is a sufficient shield against human nature.
It fundamentally rewrites your relationship with the broadcast,
Oh, completely.
You see a world-class midfielder slip on the turf during a crucial transition, and instead of analyzing their choice of studded footwear, you find yourself wondering if an offshore server just cleared $1 million position.
It changes everything about how you watch the game.
It really does. But, while teams are trying to survive the invisible financial manipulation off the pitch, they are also dealing with highly visible, incredibly visceral manipulation happening just outside their hotel windows.
Yes. The psychological warfare.
Exactly. How do teams engineer environments to equalize the playing field? This brings us to the psychological and physiological warfare that defined the England versus Mexico match in the round of 16.
This specific fixture is just a masterclass in how a host nation can weaponize geography, biology, and fan culture simultaneously.
Let's set the scene based on the Guardian live blog. It is the early hours of Sunday morning in the Santa Fe district of Mexico City. The England squad is attempting to sleep at the JW Marriott Hotel.
A very nice hotel, usually.
Usually, yes. But outside, a contingent of about 50 Mexican fans has assembled. And they aren't there to politely ask for autographs, right? They have arrived with loudspeakers, air horns, and professional-grade fireworks.
It's an intense environment.
Their explicit tactical objective is to subject the English players to severe sleep deprivation the night before a knockout match. And they are doing this while facing off against a militarized perimeter.
300 riot police, I believe.
Yeah, 300 riot police equipped with shields and helmets holding a 500-meter buffer zone.
Right, and this practice is deeply rooted in Latin American football culture. It's traditionally referred to as a serenata.
A serenata. So it used to be a positive thing.
Originally, yeah, it was a somewhat romanticized display of passion, fans gathering to sing and support their own team. But in the modern hyper-competitive era, it has really been reverse engineered into a blunt force psychological weapon against the opposition.
Wow.
It is systematic disruption, and we observe the exact same methodology deployed earlier in the group stages before Mexico defeated Ecuador 2-0.
Right, I remember that.
It was an event so disruptive that the Ecuadorian Federation actually escalated it by filing a formal complaint.
Now, the English response, at least publicly, was remarkably stoic. The reporting indicates the players were issued specialized earplugs, and manager Thomas Tuchel aggressively downplayed it in his press conference.
Which is exactly what you'd expect from Tuchel.
Yeah, he refused to give the disruption oxygen. He basically stated, we have a 6 p.m. kickoff, so if we miss some hours of sleep, we'll make them up in the late morning.
Tuchel's response is a textbook example of elite crisis communication and man management.
Because he's not taking the bait.
Exactly. By refusing to acknowledge the impact of the Serenata, he is attempting to neutralize the psychological victory the Mexican fans are trying to claim. If he complains, he signals vulnerability.
That makes a lot of sense.
But from a sports science perspective, Tuchel knows perfectly well that you cannot simply make up disrupted REM sleep hours before a high-intensity athletic performance.
It just doesn't work that way biologically?
No, it doesn't. Sleep deprivation immediately degrades fast-twitch muscle response, spatial awareness, and complex decision-making.
And the real nightmare for England wasn't even the noise outside the hotel. It was the atmospheric physics waiting for them inside the stadium. The match was at the Estadio Azteca.
The Azteca is a monument, but its reputation as a fortress is built entirely on its brutal environment.
The Guardian notes that Mexico has only lost twice in 89 competitive matches at the Azteca since 1966.
It's an absurd statistical anomaly in international football.
It really is. We hear the word altitude thrown around a lot in sports broadcasting, but I want you to mechanically break down why it is such a devastating weapon. Like, what is actually happening to an English player's body when they step onto that pitch?
It is a profound systemic biological shock.
Okay.
The Azteca sits at an elevation of roughly 2,200 to 2,240 meters above sea level. At that altitude, the barometric pressure drops significantly.
Right, the air is thinner.
Well, it is a misconception that there is less oxygen in the air. The air is still 21% oxygen. However, the lower pressure means the oxygen molecules are spread much further apart.
Oh, I see.
So with every single breath an athlete takes, their lungs capture significantly fewer oxygen molecules than they would in, say, London or Miami.
So imagine trying to do high-level geometry, which is essentially what elite football tactics are, while sprinting on a treadmill, all while breathing through a narrow straw.
That is an incredibly accurate physiological comparison. The body immediately panics. To compensate for the lack of oxygen density, the heart rate spikes drastically as it attempts to pump what little oxygen is available to the working muscles. Respiration becomes rapid and shallow.
So they're hyperventilating.
Basically, yes. Furthermore, the air at high altitude is exceptionally dry. As players hyperventilate to get oxygen, they lose massive amounts of moisture through their exhaled breath, which rapidly accelerates dehydration.
It's a compounding effect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
At a cellular level, because the muscles aren't getting enough oxygen, they switch to anaerobic metabolism, which produces lactic acid at a highly accelerated rate. The legs feel like they're filled with lead.
That sounds miserable.
It is. But the most critical failure point is cognitive. The brain consumes about 20% of the body's oxygen.
Oh, right.
When it is starved in a hypoxic environment, peripheral vision narrows, reaction times plummet, and the ability to execute complex tactical instructions under pressure simply evaporates.
Which perfectly explains why the Daily Beirut published one of the most surreal headlines of the tournament, reporting rumors that the England medical staff might utilize Viagra to combat the altitude.
Yes, the active ingredient, sildenafil.
Now, Tuchel flatly denied this. He said the information never reached him, they weren't using it, it was categorically untrue.
Right.
Jordan Henderson, in classic fashion, joked with the press, saying, well, the Viagra helps. I'm joking. But beyond the tabloid humor, what is the actual pharmacological mechanism here? Why would a team of elite sports scientists even consider erectile dysfunction medication as a tactical intervention?
Because if you strip away the cultural stigma, sildenafil is simply a potent vasodilator.
meaning it opens up the blood vessels.
Exactly. It was originally synthesized during research for treating cardiovascular conditions like high blood pressure and angina.
Yeah.
In a high-altitude environment, the human body's natural response to thin air is something called hypoxic pulmonary vasoconstriction.
Okay, big words. What does that mean?
It means the blood vessels in the lungs physically constrict. This creates a massive bottleneck, making it incredibly difficult for the heart to pump blood through the lungs to get oxygenated.
That sounds like exactly the opposite of what you want to happen.
It is. Sildenafil inhibits a specific enzyme which prevents this constriction. It forces the blood vessels in the lungs to remain dilated, which dramatically improves blood flow, increases oxygen absorption, and lowers the pulmonary arterial pressure.
And crucially, according to the reporting, it is completely legal. It is not on the World Anti-Doping Agency's banned substance list.
No, it occupies a really fascinating gray area of sports pharmacology. It doesn't build muscle or artificially enhance red blood cell count like EPO. It simply mitigates an environmental deficit.
But this forces us to look at the entire picture. We are looking at an opponent engineering an environment to their absolute advantage.
Highly engineered.
You have 300 riot police securing a hotel, while fans use explosives to degrade the visitors' neurological function at 3 a.m. You have a stadium that operates as a hypoxic chamber, starving the brain of oxygen and flooding the muscles with lactic acid. And you have serious conversations about using vasodilators just to survive the 90 minutes.
It's extreme.
At what point does a traditional home field advantage cross the Rubicon into actual asymmetrical warfare? Are we witnessing an unfair playing field?
It is the extreme frontier of sporting fairness. I mean, every team relies on familiarity, the specific cut of the grass at their home stadium, the acoustics of their supporters.
Right, standard stuff.
But the Azteca weaponizes the atmosphere itself.
Mm.
When you synthesize the biological attack of the altitude with the psychological siege of the Serenata, you are forcing the visiting team to expend a massive percentage of their tactical and physiological resources just to reach a baseline level of functionality.
They're starting in the red.
Exactly. Before a single ball is kicked, England is already running a severe deficit. It is a brilliant, ruthless exploitation of geography and culture to neutralize an opponent who might be technically superior on paper.
And that concept, neutralizing a technically superior opponent through ruthless environmental disruption, that leads us directly to the physical warfare that unfolded in Philadelphia between France and Paraguay.
That match.
If Mexico weaponized the air, Paraguay weaponized the grass. This match wasn't an exhibition of the beautiful game. It was a grueling 90-minute exercise in blunt force trauma.
It was a profound ideological clash. You had France, the reigning world champions, a squad built on blistering speed, intricate technical passing, and elegant spacing.
Pure talent.
Right. And they were matched against a Paraguayan side managed by Gustavo Alfaro, a tactician who fundamentally rejects the idea that football has to be aesthetically pleasing.
He does not care how it looks.
Not at all. Alfaro's methodology is entirely unapologetic about utilizing what are colloquially known as the dark arts of the sport.
France eventually secured a 1-0 victory, grinding it out with a penalty converted by Kylian Mbappe. But Paul McInnes's analysis in The Guardian painted a pretty grim picture of the performance.
It was a tough watch.
This was likely France's most disjointed, agonizing match of the entire tournament. They were utterly suffocated. They didn't even manage to register a single shot on target until the 55th minute.
Which is unheard of for France.
It really is. So I want to break down exactly how Paraguay achieved this. How do you take a team of global superstars and completely short-circuit their offense for over an hour?
You do it by fundamentally altering the spatial geometry and the rhythm of the game. Paraguay deployed a deep, compact, low block, effectively compressing the space between their defensive line and their midfield.
Making it super crowded.
Exactly. But it wasn't passive defending. It was intensely aggressive, physical man-marking. They didn't just track the French players, they physically engaged them at every opportunity, disrupting their balance before they could even receive a pass.
And the sources specifically highlight the performance of Paraguayan midfielder Matias Galarza, describing him as, quote, highly collapsible.
That is a very polite way of describing tactical simulation and rhythm disruption.
It's a great phrase.
It is. Galarza's role was to ensure the game never found a flow. If France began to build a passing sequence, Galarza would initiate contact and go to ground, forcing the referee to blow the whistle, stop the clock, and reset the play.
Just constant stop and start.
Yes. This constant fragmentation of the match, the fouls, the time wasting, the physical altercations, is a deliberate mechanism. It drags a technically superior team down into a chaotic, attritional brawl where their technical advantages are neutralized by pure physicality and frustration.
And that frustration absolutely boiled over the moment the final whistle blew. Mbappe, who had been systematically battered for 90 minutes, refused to participate in the traditional post-match handshakes.
He was clearly furious.
Yeah, he bypassed the Paraguayan goalkeeper, Orlando Gil, and chose to celebrate provocatively in his immediate vicinity. Gil's response was to pick up the match ball and hurl it directly into Mbappe's back.
Gil's subsequent interview with the Spanish newspaper AS is a fascinating study in cultural relativism within football.
What did he say?
Well, he didn't apologize. He rationalized the entire incident through the lens of South American football identity. He explained that he attempted to offer congratulations, felt disrespected when ignored, and then defended his team's brutal tactical approach.
How did he defend it?
He stated, "In South America, we are used to physical contact, whereas it seems they are not. We tried to reflect that on the pitch, and it seems it bothered them."
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Gills is essentially arguing that physical intimidation isn't a foul, it's a legitimate tactical heritage. He basically said, we are the Paraguay national team, a strong team known for physical toughness.
It's unapologetic. And it wasn't just the goalkeeper. You have to look at the anecdote involving Paraguayan right back Juan Jose Caceres.
That is a crazy story.
His sole tactical directive for the match was to man-mark Kylian Mbappe, to literally live in his shadow and make him miserable. Now, Caceres plays his club football in Russia for Dynamo Moscow, so he is thoroughly accustomed to grueling physical encounters.
He's used to it.
He told Argentine media that the marking became so claustrophobic, the physical contact so persistent, that at one point during the match, Mbappe turned to him in exasperation and asked, "What? Do you want to kiss me?"
And Caceres, without missing a single beat, replied, "Okay, since you're here."
It is an incredible moment of trash talk. But beneath the absurdity of that exchange, there is a very serious reality. Mbappe was furious, but his post-match comments demonstrated a cold, calculated understanding of the tournament environment.
He handled it well publicly.
He did. He didn't just complain about the refereeing. He said, "We showed that we are not just a team playing beautiful football. If we have to play aggressively, we will do so. We also know how to play aggressively, and today we won. In that aspect, we were better than them."
That statement encapsulates the necessary evolution of a champion. Mbappe is acknowledging that you cannot win a modern World Cup relying solely on aesthetic brilliance.
Right.
Tournaments are wars of attrition. You will encounter teams whose entire tactical identity is built on destruction. You have to possess the capacity to absorb a relentless physical beating, endure the psychological friction of constant cynical fouls, and still retain the cognitive clarity to execute your primary objective.
Which, in this instance, was converting a high-pressure penalty.
Exactly.
And this is where we have to contextualize what Mbappe is actually achieving in real time, because his statistical output is defying logic.
The numbers are insane.
Despite operating in a phone booth, despite being targeted by these aggressive, bruising defensive schemes and literally being assaulted with a ball after the whistle, he is quietly assembling one of the most terrifying resumes in the history of the sport.
Truly historic.
With that penalty against Paraguay, he recorded his 7th goal of the 2026 tournament, pulling him level with Lionel Messi in the race for the Golden Boot. That goal pushed his career World Cup total to 19. He is now sitting just one single goal behind Messi's all-time record of 20. But here is the metric that absolutely shatters the paradigm. He has now scored 11 knockout stage goals.
Wow.
That equals Cristiano Ronaldo's all-time total across all of his World Cup appearances. And as The Guardian points out, Ronaldo required 6 World Cups to achieve that. Mbappe is only playing in his 3rd.
It's just phenomenal.
So I have to ask you, does the fact that he is compiling these historic numbers while being subjected to the kind of systematic violence we saw from Paraguay actually elevate his legacy? Does enduring the dark arts make the goals worth more in the historical calculus?
In the pantheon of all-time greats, context is the ultimate currency. We don't just tally the goals, we analyze the resistance overcome to score them.
Right, the degree of difficulty.
Exactly. To equal records held by Messi and Ronaldo is one thing. To do it while being actively physically hunted by organized defensive units designed specifically to break your spirit speaks to a level of psychological resilience that separates the elite from the legendary.
Yeah.
Mbappe is proving he is not a flat-track bully who only thrives in open, free-flowing games against inferior opposition. He can descend into the tactical mud with a team like Paraguay, absorb 90 minutes of hostility, and still emerge with a decisive action.
It's incredibly impressive.
That capacity to transcend environmental and physical disruption is the absolute hallmark of historical greatness.
He pays the physical toll and he cashes the statistical check. But while France survived the chaotic grassroots physical disruption of Paraguay, their quarterfinal matchup presents an entirely different existential threat.
Oh, absolutely.
They are facing Morocco. And unlike Paraguay, Morocco isn't advancing through grit and dark arts. They are advancing through a highly sophisticated, massively funded, state-sponsored master plan. This is the phenomenon I'm referring to as the death of the fairy tale.
It's a great way to frame it. The global media apparatus is really addicted to the Cinderella narrative, particularly regarding African and Asian nations.
We love an underdog.
We do. But attempting to project a plucky underdog story onto this Moroccan team is not just inaccurate, it fundamentally ignores the massive industrial machinery driving their success.
Let's examine the raw data of what they just accomplished. Morocco dismantled the co-hosts, Canada, with a 3-0 victory in Houston.
It was a clinic.
A clinic. Azzedine Ounahi scored a clinical double in the 50th and 82nd minutes, and Soufiane Rahimi twisted the knife with a third deep into stoppage time at 90+8.
It's relentless.
This victory extends Morocco's unbeaten streak across all competitions to an incomprehensible 34 matches, a run dating back to August 2025.
That level of consistency is rare.
And here is the statistic that completely recontextualizes global football hierarchy. Morocco has now secured 4 World Cup knockout stage wins, 2 in Qatar in 2022, and 2 so far here in 2026. That single nation has equaled the knockout win total of all other African nations combined in the nearly 100-year history of the tournament.
It is a permanent tectonic shift in the balance of power. But the match against Canada is a crucial case study because it illuminates how they are winning. It is not through expansive, overwhelming possession.
How are they doing it?
Well, BBC Sport uncovered a tactical anomaly in this match that is simply staggering. The first half was the first in World Cup history to feature more yellow cards than total shots.
Wait, really?
Yes. Morocco generated only 5 total efforts on goal over the entire 90 minutes. Statistically, that is the fewest shots recorded by any team winning a World Cup knockout match in recorded history.
Wait, I need to pause on that. They took 5 shots and they scored 3 goals. That isn't just efficient, that is lethal. But mechanically, how does a team win 3-0 while essentially refusing to shoot the ball?
By mastering the geometry of defense and the kinetics of the counterattack, they are executing a defensive low block with a level of precision that is suffocating.
So they just absorb everything.
They invite pressure, absorbing the opponent's possession without allowing penetration into dangerous areas. The BBC analysis highlighted their left back, Nusayr Mazraoui, who delivered an absolute masterclass in spatial awareness and defensive intervention.
What did the numbers look like for him?
He registered 14 defensive actions against Canada alone. That included 10 clearances and a crucial blocked shot. He dominated the physical duels, winning 8 of 9 on the ground and 4 of 6 in the air.
So they essentially create a defensive black hole.
Exactly. They completely neutralized Canada's midfield engine and marked their star striker, Jonathan David, entirely out of the match. But what makes them terrifying is the transition.
Right, the counter.
When they win the ball, they don't slowly build from the back.
Yeah.
They possess elite world-class outlets. Captain Achraf Hakimi provides blistering pace on the flank, and Brahim Diaz, who just registered his 4th World Cup assist, which is an African record, by the way, operates as the creative fulcrum.
So they just flip the switch.
They transition from defense to attack in a matter of seconds, exploiting the space vacated by the overcommitted Canadian team. 5 shots. 3 goals. It is ruthless, industrialized pragmatism.
And the BBC report makes it incredibly clear that this level of tactical sophistication was not an accident. It is a result of a very specific, heavily funded blueprint.
Yes, the blueprint.
We're talking about state-level intervention. In 2019, King Mohammed VI inaugurated a $65 million training complex and academy, which expanded upon previous infrastructure built in 2009. We always hear about investing in youth. But how does $65 million actually translate into a 34-match, unbeaten streak on the pitch?
It translates through a very deliberate, dual-pronged strategy of talent optimization. The first prong is raising the domestic floor.
What does that entail?
That $65 million doesn't just buy nice pitches. It builds world-class sports science laboratories, biometric tracking systems, elite coaching education, and full-time residential programs.
So it's professionalizing the whole system.
Right. It ensures young Moroccan players receive the exact same nutritional and tactical grounding as a youth player at Bayern Munich or Real Madrid. It industrializes the domestic talent pipeline.
And the second prong.
The second prong is raising the setting through aggressive, highly sophisticated diaspora recruitment.
Oh, this is fascinating.
Morocco realized that millions of citizens of Moroccan descent reside in Europe, deeply embedded in the elite academy systems of France, Spain, and the Netherlands. So they built an extensive, proactive scouting network to identify these dual national players when they are 14 or 15 years old.
Getting in early.
They engage the families, build relationships, and offer a clear pathway to international football. That is exactly how they secured Achraf Hakimi and Brahim Diaz, players born and refined in Spain, but who elected to represent Morocco.
Wow.
They are fusing the tactical discipline of European academies with domestic Moroccan talent.
Manager Mohamed Wabi addressed this directly in his press conference. He didn't play the humble underdog. He cited the king's financial investment and stated flatly, "It's not a surprise. We are no longer a surprise as of today. When people talk about Morocco, they talk about a real contender, a major footballing nation."
He's absolutely right.
I think we need to confront our own biases as viewers. We love a fairy tale, but when a manager looks at the camera and says, "Stop calling us a surprise," is it time for the global audience to stop treating African nations as plucky upstarts and recognize them as systematic, heavily capitalized powerhouses?
We have a critical obligation to update our analytical framing. Continuing to label Morocco a fairy tale is profoundly disrespectful to the decades of institutional planning, the $65 million of sovereign capital deployed, and the complex data and scouting networks they have painstakingly assembled.
It belittles the work.
Exactly. They aren't relying on magical momentum or the alignment of the stars. They are executing a business plan. They are operating with the exact same level of systematic institutional preparation as a traditional European hegemon like France or Germany.
Yeah.
When you go 34 matches unbeaten and systematically rewrite the history of a continent, you have graduated from the realm of miracles into the realm of permanent structural power.
It is the complete industrialization of success. But, just as we established that the modern World Cup can be highly predictable, engineered, and systemized through blueprints and capital, we must pivot to the entirely unpredictable.
Ah, yes. The chaos.
Because for all the tactical low blocks and sovereign wealth investments, this 2026 tournament has been repeatedly hijacked by bizarre, chaotic headlines that no algorithm or scouting network could have ever foreseen.
The World Cup has really evolved beyond a sporting competition. It acts as a massive gravitational well, pulling in absolutely every facet of global culture, politics, and media.
Let's start with the pure sporting chaos. Norway, a nation that hasn't qualified for a World Cup in 28 years, just eliminated Brazil, the most storied franchise in international football, with a 2-1 victory.
A massive upset.
Erling Haaland delivered a devastating double. Supported by a new generation of talent like Antonio Nusa and Oscar Bob, you have the ultimate traditional giant slain by a team that wasn't even at the last 6 tournaments.
That's the beauty of the sport.
It is. But the chaos isn't contained within the white lines of the pitch. We are watching high-level geopolitics crash directly into FIFA's disciplinary bureaucracy.
This specific incident regarding the U.S. men's national team is arguably one of the most structurally significant events of the tournament, far beyond its immediate impact on a single match.
Let's break down the mechanics of what happened. U.S. striker Folarin Balogun received a red card in a previous match, which carries an automatic 1-game suspension.
Standard protocol.
However, FIFA's disciplinary committee took the highly unusual step of invoking Article 27 of their disciplinary code. They rescinded the immediate suspension, placing Balogun on a 1-year probation instead.
Which is very rare.
Very. And that made him eligible for the massive round of 16 clash against Belgium. But the story exploded when former U.S. President Donald Trump utilized his Truth Social platform to comment on the ruling. He posted, "Thank you to FIFA for doing what was right and reversing a great injustice."
But to understand the magnitude of this, we have to look at the mechanism of Article 27.
Mm-hmm.
It is designed for exceptional circumstances, granting the committee discretionary power to suspend a sanction.
Right.
It is rarely utilized in high-stakes knockout football.
Yeah.
But the true inflection point here is the public commentary from a prominent political figure.
Because it completely shatters the illusion that sports and politics operate in separate vacuums.
Precisely. FIFA has historically gone to extraordinary lengths to project an image of absolute political neutrality. They fiercely guard their autonomy.
Or at least they try.
Right. When a former head of state publicly frames a regulatory decision by FIFA as the righting of a great injustice concerning their national team, it undeniably politicizes the governance of the sport.
It forces the issue.
It raises complex questions about leverage, optics, and the indirect pressure applied to sporting tribunals. It demonstrates that the World Cup is viewed by political actors not just as a game, but as a critical theater for projecting national prestige and communicating with the domestic electorate.
It feels as though the 90 minutes of football is merely the anchor programming for a much larger global reality broadcast. We have Holland orchestrating historic upsets, politicians essentially lobbying international sporting tribunals, and then we have Brody. We have to discuss Brody.
The phenomenon of the first officially credentialed animal at a FIFA World Cup.
Yes. Brody is a 6-year-old golden retriever and poodle mix. He boasts 2 million followers on Instagram, and he was granted official access to the stadium stands for the Argentina versus Cape Verde match. He was photographed just relaxing near the pitch, casually watching Lionel Messi. Now, from a traditional sports journalism perspective, this sounds like an absurd punchline. Why is a dog taking up credentialed space at the World Cup?
It sounds absurd until you map the microeconomy of modern attention. Brody is not a pet who won a contest.
Right, he's a brand.
He is the centerpiece of a highly structured digital enterprise managed by his owner, Cliff Brush. Brody's platform generated massive engagement through a philanthropic campaign that raised over $1 million for pediatric patients in Miami hospitals.
So it's not a joke, it's a calculated media strategy.
Absolutely. FIFA's decision to credential a dog over a traditional beat reporter represents a fundamental shift in sports marketing.
How so?
FIFA recognizes that Brody's 2 million followers represent a demographic that might not care about tactical low blocks or expected goals, but they consume lifestyle and influencer content.
Ah, cross-promotion.
Yes. By placing Brody in the same frame as Lionel Messi, FIFA is engineering a viral cross-pollination of audiences. It is a stark indicator of how traditional sports journalism is being actively displaced by influencer culture and algorithmic engagement metrics.
And the sheer spectacle of the tournament continues to expand. I mean, the Daily Beirut dedicated significant coverage to Carla Mora, a 40-year-old model with a massive following, who is the wife of the legendary Mexican goalkeeper Guillermo Ochoa.
Who is currently tying the record by appearing in his 6th World Cup, by the way.
Exactly. Her presence in the stands at the Azteca, her social media updates, her fashion, it has become a primary storyline competing for bandwidth with the matches themselves. We have politicians claiming judicial victories, we have supermodels driving media narratives, and we have a golden retriever with a press pass.
When you synthesize all of these disparate elements, the overarching conclusion is that the World Cup has fundamentally transcended its original purpose.
It's bigger than football now.
It's much bigger. It is no longer merely a broadcast of an athletic competition. It is a multi-dimensional, multi-platform content engine. The cameras are no longer exclusively focused on the players.
Right.
They are relentlessly tracking the VIP boxes, the social media metrics, the political fallout, and the influencer feeds. The spectacle has grown so massive that it is actively consuming the sport that birthed it.
Which brings us to the final whistle of today's deep dive. We began this analysis by stating that if you are only watching the grass, you are missing the actual game. I believe the evidence we've unpacked today proves that beyond a shadow of a doubt.
Without a doubt.
The reality of the 2026 World Cup is that it is being fiercely contested across multiple invisible battlefields. It is won and lost in the offshore casino servers, executing billions of dollars in algorithmic microbets based on a single delayed throw-in. It is fought in the suffocating, hypoxic atmosphere of the Azteca and on the militarized streets outside team hotels at 3 a.m. It is negotiated through the brutal, rhythm-breaking dark arts of physical intimidation, and it is systematically engineered in boardrooms through $65 million state-sponsored talent pipelines.
The forces dictating the outcomes are increasingly complex, institutional, and entirely removed from the romanticized ideals of the sport.
So true.
Which leaves us with a vital, perhaps unsettling question to consider as we move deeper into the knockout stages.
What's that?
We are witnessing politicians openly analyzing FIFA's disciplinary tribunals, federal agencies seizing hundreds of surveillance drones from the airspace, and social media algorithms dictating who gains access to the inner sanctum of the stadiums.
Yeah.
As these external forces, political, technological, and corporate, continue to consolidate their power, where exactly does the autonomous sport end and the engineer spectacle begin?
That is the million-dollar question.
Are we approaching a horizon where future World Cups will see these shadow entities directly intervening to shape the actual rules, regulations, and outcomes of the game in real time, completely superseding the authority of the referee on the pitch?
It is a question that completely reconfigures how you will consume the next 90 minutes of football. The next time you watch a world-class athlete inexplicably misplay a simple pass, or a referee hesitate on a crucial call, or a team suddenly collapse from exhaustion in the 70th minute. Wait, let me rephrase that. When you see those